All right, first, let's recall the 5 objectives of IT governance. Important that we kind of get those out of the way before we look at our example companies. First is strategic alignment. Does our IT strategy support or complement our overall corporate strategy? Second, value creation. Will the IT investment or investments we're considering ultimately pay off? Third, resource management. I'm sure any IT manager would tell you it would be nice to have unlimited resources. Companies don't. So they have to decide where to commit what resources they do have. Fourth, risk management. IT carries a lot of potential risk, and someone has to keep that big picture in mind. IT governance, that's one of their major roles. And finally, performance management. Is IT doing a quote-unquote good job, and how do we know? So that's what IT governance needs to do at a broad level. Now, let's take a look at 2 hypothetical companies. So on the left, we have a larger company, Switchboard Inc., and on the right, we have a much smaller, perhaps a mom-and-pop operation called Circuit Center Inc. And we're going to be looking at some of the attributes of each company's IT system. Now, if it's the same, you'll notice that there's a single box that will cover both companies. If they're different, you'll see that called out with different colors. So it'll be clear and easy to see where they differ and where they're the same. So let's look at the first aspect. Same for both when we're talking about IT structure. Both have a well-defined IT structure with an organization chart and a clear chain of command. Second, a difference, dealing with communication protocols. And in this context, communication protocols is the way, if you wish, the language by which a company is going to communicate with suppliers or other business partners. Now, Circuit Center Inc., being smaller, says we're just going to use one for the whole organization. We don't need or want to create a variety. We're not big enough for that. Switchboard Inc., on the other hand, says, well, in our mind, we should have different protocols specific to us versus specific to other business partners. Now that may make sense. Perhaps Switchboard is more invested in EDI, where they need to be able to cope with multiple protocols. Another advantage of this could be a little more, let's just say, tailored strategic alignment. IT can say, all right, well, if the strategy needs us to have 5 different protocols, we can do that. Whereas Circuit Center would say, it's not worth it. Third is resource management. Here, they're basically the same. They have a process map that dictates how IT acquisitions can be made and approved, as well as how project maintenance is dealt with. The next one, a big difference, data processing. It's one of the biggest decisions any company can make. It's worth noting that although we're using kind of general terms, we're saying Switchboard is centralized and Circuit Center is distributed, in reality those are points on a spectrum. Companies are not wholly centralized or wholly distributed. It's a matter of degrees. So in this case, centralized says, well, we've tried to bring as much of our processing capacity and data storage, if you will, to one place. And that's what Switchboard is doing. Probably means they have a more powerful system, might also mean they're more vulnerable to bottlenecks, and there could be more issues with alignment with all the distributed centers that may be part of Switchboard's organization. But they may also gain the advantage of more timely reporting because all the data is held in one place, and more likely than not, you're not dealing with delays getting that information from a distributed network. Circuit Center decided to go with distributed, said, well, we want to do this. It's a little easier, a little less expensive. We don't need quite the processing horsepower. We can distribute data storage and process to various centers. Dangers here? Well, maybe some inconsistency in how data is collected and used. You're giving the end users a much higher degree of control. That could be good or bad, but you're likely not to have to use as much IT resources. So that could be an advantage. As far as their approach to risk management, again, similar. They have an organizational risk framework under which they try to address IT-specific risks, and then they mitigate and manage to those risks. And last deals with performance management. Again, a difference here. Switchboard uses a balanced scorecard for the organization as a whole. IT has its own completely separate balanced scorecard. Circuit Center, smaller size, says we don't really need that. We have a single scorecard, but we do include some IT measures. Question is that effective? Well, maybe for Circuit Center it is. IT isn't all that unique and different in their world, and so they prefer to say, hey, we want to see the whole picture, IT included. For Switchboard, IT may be so unique and so different in terms of scope that you wouldn't really gain any benefit by commingling that with the business as a whole. It's not to say there's a right or a wrong way for any of these. Even with each difference, I was able to point out there's potential upsides and potential downsides to each of them. It's more important the company decides what's right for them. They all have pluses and minuses, and that's really the bottom line. And the heart of IT governance is determining what's the right approach for that specific entity with the choices provided.